Here's a story that Mike's going to talk about called Cable TV is the New Landline. I don't really know what it's about because I haven't read it, but Mike's going to tell us all about it in today's Not So Critical update.
So, not a super complicated story. I think the headline pretty much sums it up. But the two interesting data points are they said, right? That's all you need. Read the headline. Can't go wrong with that in today's news environment. So the interesting point they made is that landlines we know kind of are dead. They've been fully replaced by cell phones. My in-laws still have a landline. Actually, I don't even know if that's true. But what they said was that up until as recently as 2017, 50% of homes had landlines, and that was kind of the break-even point. Now, today, only about 15% of homes have cable television, which signifies potentially the death of that industry. So that's our starting point. Do you guys find that interesting at all?
Oh yeah, very interesting. I think it's important to jump on what cable is and how these cable providers have pivoted to internet service providers instead.
Guys, you know that cable TV is a totally American thing, right?
Yes.
Oh, really?
100%. In Europe, it was mainly satellite TV. They used a lot of satellite TV.
We had a big receiver that would go, and we'd have like 4 channels. I remember, this is going to date me.
I mean, we had that in like the 80s.
With the 5th national channel in the UK was launched, Channel 5.
Oh my God, Channel 5. Yeah.
And it's total rubbish. It still is. And they had this big auction about who would get the license for it. And it's just, so there's only 5 channels.
What did you do with the other 500
was
channels?
Literally the same. Sweden was the same exact way.
They have a thing called Freeview now, which is where basically kind of like your cable TV, but it took a long time to get here. And it's all just tons of repeats and shit.
So while we were watching Nickelodeon and ESPN2 and Home and Garden television, you had 5 channels?
Well, we could, as John said,
you had to pay.
We could get satellite dishes, but it was just not. They were expensive and not very common. Like if someone had a satellite dish, it was like, oh, we're going around to Jim's house tonight because he's got a satellite. And we can watch porn after 11 or something.
So America really is the best country on the planet.
I don't know about that because America also had AOL. So
that sounds like
and Europe just had the free internet.
Interesting. Okay. So this is, I didn't realize this conversation was going to be so interesting. So one of the objections to, or I don't know objection, but like one of the talks around cable TV was this idea of bundling.
Wait, you picked this and you knew it was going to be boring?
I don't think this is, I like this subject.
That's how this show works. I pick topics that I think are going to be boring and see what happens. That's why we never publish half the episode. We probably shouldn't publish half the episodes, but whatever.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, we're gonna fill time. We're like the cable TV of YouTube.
Okay, we've become the cable TV of YouTube.
This is how we fill time in our program.
We're the 6 a.m. radio show, the one that no one catches.
So this turned out to be programming in a different way than interesting in a different way than I expected. But bundling was always a big issue with cable television, that you would have a cable package that included 200 channels, but you didn't care about all but, a dozen of them,
5.
But you were still paying for these others. So there'd always be talk about how do we unbundle these so I can just pay for the ones that I want. But it was the bundling that allowed you to have access to all these other channels. When the streaming started breaking out, it was less obvious because you'd have services like Hulu and Netflix where you could find all that programming. But now what's happening with all the networks moving to streaming is you essentially have unbundled television across all these streaming services, and it sucks because now I have to pay $5 to $15 to 5 different channels that I want to be able to watch, and I'm still not getting everything. Is there something comparable in your experience, Peter, going through this in Europe, or what's that look like to you?
I don't know.
Okay. So less interesting than I thought. Got it.
No. Seriously, I don't think that I personally, because I never really paid much attention to that side of things. Like John said, we had the free internet over in the UK, at least for me, in my experience. There was things like CompuServe, and I think there was AOL and some other walled gardens like that.
But we were all on DSL when it came out. We weren't, first we were dialing up. As soon as DSL started, they were laying copper lines. Everyone got it.
But there was no video programming then. Did you just do other things?
Yeah.
Well, in my young rebellious days, I would pirate the movies that America was releasing and TV shows that America was releasing.
John, you did not.
It was a hard.
I
had a hard. It was a dark phase in my 11 to 15 year old life where I got
15 to
the free
25s
and the free access. Free unfiltered. At the time, this was high speed. We're talking about 100 KB per second. This was the best of the best.
Oh yeah.
And then 1 meg. When they upgraded to 1 meg, this was life changing because you could download a movie in a night. It was a 600 meg movie. You'd go to sleep, wake up, you got it.
I do remember being so confused.
Sorry, go.
I remember being confused by the transition from like T1 to DSL or cable because T1 was like fast, like the best solution.
Yeah.
Except DSL then was way faster. So I always remember being very confused by that.
Can I tell you a story? The guy that we talked about the other day, the Scottish sysadmin, who is now a very important person in the UK internet service provider industry, who said "arse" a lot. That guy. He is one of the key people who proved that DSL was possible. So DSL is a technology that uses the electrical signals on the existing phone
lines,
copper wires that had already been laid down. And that's why DSL was revolutionary, because you didn't have to lay dig up the whole country to have actual cable. And
that's really cool. I didn't know that.
It's very cool. Yeah, that's why he's so important. I really shouldn't be picking the piss out of him.
DSL is so flawed, unfortunately, because it heavily relies on the distance between the node. To the home. So if you're close to the node, of course. You'll have really nice near zero packet loss, nice connection, stable connection. But the farther you go, the slower your connection becomes, the more packet you lose. But back to cable, and I wanted to touch on this because I found it really interesting when reading up on coax, which is the cable type that, unfortunately, a lot of the word cable is going to come up a lot here. But cable companies,
great character,
like Xfinity. They pivoted to becoming the biggest internet service provider, one of the biggest internet service providers in America, and they did so by also taking old technology and repurposing it for internet, and they did so using the coax cable. Many Europeans, we had cable infrastructure. Many Europeans will not know what this is. All the Americans know what it looks like. It's a thick, usually a black cable, and it has a single pin that you plug in and screw on.
Well, come. We have it now. Cable, there we go. Yes.
There's cable. Love them. Love cable. That's, by the way, cable from the Marvel universe.
Yes.
Big foe of Deadpool. Anyway.
Please, let's talk more about cable.
No, I love them. But back to coax. So what Xfinity and a couple other big
Xfinity
cable providers
sounds like another Marvel character, by the way.
Well, it's Comcast. They just renamed it to Xfinity.
Comcast does too now. Everything sounds like just a
Marvel character. But wait, I want to get to my point.
Sorry.
The point is that they wanted to do what DSL did, which was repurpose copper, but instead they were going to repurpose coax. One thing that they didn't think about was that coax, when it was designed, was meant to ingest a lot, right? It was able to download content really quickly, but the threshold for upload was like 1% to 99% download. Because these cable boxes, all they needed to do was upload diagnostic logs. So it wasn't like they needed to upload crazy files. They just needed to upload a couple kilobytes. but they needed to be able to download a lot. So when they did this pivot, all of a sudden, all of the Americans don't have upload. We have, take any coax home, they'll have a 95-5 ratio where it's 100 megs up and 5 megs down. And they still haven't figured this out. They advertise gigabit speeds, and it's downloadable at a gigabit.
Yeah.
But upload is like 30 megs. Just find that very interesting.
True story, bro. That's interesting actually, because that's one of the things that I've always wondered is why is that stupid ratio there? Yeah. Even for technologies that support it. And I think it's probably market forces that they can just, because it was an established and accepted thing that you get lower upload than you do download. And if you wanted a higher upload, which let you do things like host your own files that are accessible anywhere in the world, then you get to charge more for it. And it's an artificial limit that is put in place because it was a physical limit when America got its act together with faster downloads. Interesting.
So, John, are you saying it's no longer a physical limit?
The coax 3.2, we're currently, I believe, using 3.1. Coax 3.2, I believe, will reach similar parity.
Oh.
So the thing is, everyone's got fiber these days anyway.
But fiber, so funny enough, if we want to talk about fiber, let's talk about the US government providing AT&T, Verizon, and Xfinity. I think it was like 10 billion. It was a lot of money. A lot. I mean, way too much money to run fiber lines across America. Basically, this was like 20 years ago. They said, connect us, connect our country. And Xfinity and Comcast, and AT&T and all of these giants, they're like, well, we could, but like they clearly are fine with broadband and DSL and coax. So they just took the money and never did the work they were supposed to, which was to run fiber lines across America to every home.
That would be expensive.
Mike quickly pulled up, because that would be expensive. As Mike just pulled up, it's nowhere in sight are we going to have fiber. I still don't have fiber, where it's not available to me. But now what's happening is these mini companies are starting to pop up that said enough is enough, and they are running their own fiber with getting licensing from the cities and contracts from the cities. And AT&T and Comcast are not happy about that.
Yeah, in some areas you can't do that.
Yeah. It's horrible that they want to do it and they have the money and the backing, but they're prevented because of regulation.
Lobbies, they don't because of lobbies. Yeah,
because of lobbyists. Can I? So, by the way, in Malta, I have gigabit Ethernet, and I still only have the 50 megabit upload. Because of this fucking
because of this super or artificial limit that has been placed in our minds, like it's okay, and it's been proven that it doesn't actually cost them anything because they're passing traffic.
Yeah, right. It's data coming in and data going out, right? So
it's solving for non-issues, pricing out non-issues, which is it makes me so mad.
Because
it's been proven that they can provide us no caps at a gig easily to every home, and it will cost them virtually nothing more, yet they don't.
But then how are they gonna iterate on that? How are they gonna make more money? Because it's all about growth, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What's the next phase?
They're right there.
Got to keep something in reserve.
Yeah, I don't remember. There's a name for the bandwidth sharing agreements.
So well done, Mike. You picked a story that was initially going to be boring, ended up revealing some horrible home truths.
Almost became interesting and then turned devastating.
It just made us all very angry about everything.
Yeah, exactly.
You're welcome.